Viewer discretion is advised. For this case, we're traveling to Singapore in the 1980s, and a man named Adrian Lim, who touted himself as a psychic medium who could commune with the dead. Adrian was born January 6th, 1942, a Capricorn, to a very poor family. He was known for having a short temper and little patience for school, and he eventually dropped out to work odd jobs. When he was about 20, he found long-term employment as a bill collector, and he married his childhood sweetheart, and they had 2 children together. They converted to Catholicism just before their marriage. I think she was a pretty devout Catholic. He clearly was not, and we're about to get to that.
Got
So in the 70s, Adrian opened up a little side hustle to subsidize his bill collecting work. He rented a room in a crummy apartment building and offered psychic readings and communications with the dead.
They're so connected to bill collecting.
So connected.
So connected.
Yeah.
They're actually
I really
so connected.
When you think about it.
They're like so disconnected that they become connected. Like, it's actually kind of amazing when you think about it. So, the landlord of the building that he rented a room for to do this weird job worked with him as like somewhat of a pimp / recruiter, bringing in clients who were often vulnerable young women and sex workers or vulnerable elderly women. And then he would get a cut, like a finder's fee.
Okay.
The landlord would do this for Lim.
So not a literal pimp.
No, but in a way, yes, because we're about to get to it. And I don't think that the landlord, didn't know.
Okay.
So Lim called on all manner of spirits for his rituals, but particularly connected with Hindu goddess Kali, the goddess of ultimate power, destruction, and change, NBD. And what could be completely made up, because I Googled it a bunch and couldn't find it, the god Fragan.
There's no Fragan way that's a real god.
I mean, I looked it up, and I don't...
No Fragan way.
No Fragan way. Lim explained...
I'm so sorry.
Was a, quote, Siamese sex god. I get it. His words, not mine. So
Fragan good at sex.
It's like, we tap into the goddess of ultimate power, destruction, and change, and fucking really good at sex. Fraggin' good at sex. God, Fraggin'.
He's a friggin' freak.
He's a friggin' genius.
A friggin' freak.
Love it.
Oh, the second nog is kicking in.
Get that nog, girl. You haven't been able to drink in 10 years. You're going to get drunk off of nothing. It's amazing.
/ I've had more to drink in the last 2 months.
But before his charlatan enterprise could take off, he had to convince clients that he was the real deal. So enter his go-to, quote, egg trick. Quote, after blackening needles with soot from a burning candle, Lim carefully inserted them into a raw egg and then sealed the little pinhole with powder. When the needle was hot, it would easily penetrate an egg as the heat softened the shell. In his rituals, he passed the egg several times over his client while chanting, and then asked her, his client, to crack open the egg and see what was inside. He'd read what was inside to determine her ailments.
I feel like this could be a fun way to create spooky eggnog.
Oh, totally. Unaware that the egg had been tampered with, the client would be convinced by the sight of the black needles, the blackened needles inside the egg, that evil spirits were harassing her.
Oh, I get it. So they didn't see him piercing the egg.
No,
he
was
would do it
hiding
beforehand. Needles inside an egg.
Yup. And then filling the little holes with talc.
That tricky bitch.
I know.
Got it.
Clever girl.
Little tricky bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, God, this flying here. Once it was determined that a client, particularly a young and vulnerable one, was being harassed by spirits, Lim would offer his solution: a ritual massage.
Oh, I wonder where this is going.
Oh, yeah. The client would get nude and Lim would rub her down head to toe with a carved idol of the god Fragan, not real, and seal the ritual by having intercourse with her. So he's a rapist. But he was also a torturer. If he wasn't inclined to sexually assault his client, so say they were older or men, he would recommend a crude shock therapy where clients would sit in a chair with their feet in a tub of water, and he would attach live exposed wires to their temples, attached to a car battery, basically, flip a switch and send electric currents through the client, assuring that this would cure headaches and banish evil spirits residing within the body.
Well, one way to cure headaches is to just
kill you,
fry your brain.
Yes, death will relieve your headache.
Yeah, mercury will take care of your syphilis and some other things.
Have you tried colloidal silver?
God.
So his practice took off, and he was visited by a lot of folks wanting to be spiritually healed. One of these clients was a young woman named Tan Mui Chu. Tan worked in a bar and was going through a really tough time in her life, and she had just lost her grandmother who had practically raised her, she was estranged from her parents. And she was completely distraught, and a coworker of hers recommended she visit Lim and assured her that his methods could cure her woes. So she started to visit with Lim multiple times a week to seek treatments, and she fell in love with him.
How could you resist this guy?
Yeah. Lim was equally infatuated with her and insisted that she move into his apartment. He's married with 2 children.
Come to my side hustle fake medium squat house.
Oh,
babe.
No, not that apartment. The apartment, his home with his wife and children. He wasn't keeping her quietly in his work apartment. He wanted her to move in with him and his family. He has 2 apartments,
and he made her move into the one with his wife?
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
To try to appease his wife, Lim made a vow that he was not having an affair with Tan, and he made it in front of a portrait of Jesus Christ himself to prove his devotion to his wife. But it wouldn't take long for his wife to catch him in the act with Tan, and she moved out and took the kids with her, filing for divorce in 1976. And yeah, this was honestly the best decision she could have ever made, and this kept her and their children safe from any of his violence or culpability in the crimes that he would later commit.
Oh, okay.
So around this time, his work as a medium really started to take off, so much so that he could leave his full-time job as a bill collector and devote his career entirely to his psychic powers. At the height of his business, he'd be earning up to $3,000 per client. That's what it would be in US, I think, factoring for inflation. And he had several clients coming through every month.
Jeez.
So he had consistently 10 plus clients.
Oh my God.
He's making a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
A lot. And it's all cash. So with everything going so well, Lim proposed to his client turned lover, Tan, and they wed in 1977. Their marriage, however, was not a happy or healthy one.
Well, it had such a good start.
Yeah.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his job is manipulating vulnerable people into having sex with him to rid them of spirits.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's how it should be.
Right.
And
the foundations of a healthy marriage. I love it. So, honestly, this could have qualified for the Stockholm Syndrome crimes episode, I think, in a lot of ways. Which will become obvious. But Lim quite literally beat Tan into submission and also sexually trafficked her in order to profit off of her.
Because that's love, babe.
Yep. He also manipulated her into working for his business, bringing him clients who he would often have sex with. And I guess in an attempt to even the playing field with his wife, or I am more prone to think he used this as another tool of manipulation, just an assertion of power. But he assured her that intercourse with younger women kept him healthy and that she should do the same with younger men, which she didn't want to do.
Right.
And he eventually manipulated her into sexual encounters with at least one underage boy and allegedly even with her own younger brother.
Wow, our cases actually have like a lot of weird similarities.
Overlap, yeah.
Like the time
hate how much overlap you got.
Yeah.
The manipulation,
It's disgusting.
the like ringleader, the pedophilia, the rape,
Mm-hmm.
the incest.
Yeah.
Etc.
So now, not only is this man raping women, he's manipulating his new wife into raping young men and boys.
Wow.
And he also like kind of wedged his way into her family and like trafficked her younger sisters.
So much overlap.
Yeah.
That's
really fucking gross.
It's really gross. And at not similar eras, different eras, but like totally different continents.
No, the 70s and 80s, so very similar era.
Yeah. It's just, that is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, about 2 years into Tan and Lim's marriage, a client was brought in by a mother seeking treatment for her daughter, a young woman named Lai Ho. Lai Ho was one of 2 daughters and seemed to be the favorite. The younger daughter, Ho Ka, came to the appointment with them, and Lim did his patented egg trick to convince Lai Ho that she was infected with evil spirits, so the older sister.
Mm.
If Lim could treat Lai Ho and rid her of the evil inside of her, surely he could vanquish whatever disgruntled devils resided within Ho Ka as well. The like disgruntled devils that her mother always claims like makes her less likable than her older sister, which real nice and real healthy. Now I'm gonna take you to this like fake shaman who's probably gonna rape you. Enjoy.
To like be an exorcist, and the only reason you're cranky is because I treat you like shit and I favor your older sister to begin with.
Yeah. Right. So there's a little bit of that. Anyway, so the mother brought
Ho Ka
back for another appointment. Ho Ka quickly fell under Lim's spell and became a devoted follower. So when he approached her to become one of his, quote, holy wives, she accepted, despite already being married to another man.
Unholy Trinity.
And now the Trinity is formed. Lim isolated Ho Ka so completely from her husband and family that she was convinced they were vile, immoral people, and left her husband and family to move in with Lim and Tan, completing the unholy Trinity.
Look at how did you find a case so perfect for this topic?
Because there is a book entitled Unholy Trinity about this guy.
Wow.
And that took up like
Unholy Trinity?
I literally did. I literally Googled like Unholy Trinity crime or Unholy Trinity murder. And this came up.
I Googled.
And I was like, oh, is this real? And then there you go.
I Googled murderer trio and found
like
the
that.
trouble trio. And then that was like one tiny aspect of my case, but I was in it.
Worked for me.
I Googled
That's perfect.
lyrics to "Twas the Night Before Christmas."
That was like my favorite
Third eye
thing in
blind.
the world. It made me cry. So you're amazing.
I'll read it again at the end if you want.
You can read it to me in a voice memo that I can keep, and then I can read it to myself every night leading up to Christmas.
Perfect.
Okay, great. We'll take care of that. So Ho Ka's husband went to Lim's house to try and figure out A, what the fuck is going on, and B, how to get his wife back. So while he was there, he was convinced to stick around and observe her treatments, quote unquote, and eventually was himself persuaded to undergo shock therapy to rid himself of his demons in a sort of like couples therapy with Ho Ka.
Couples shock therapy in a bathtub.
Yep.
How are some people such
never
talkers?
Doesn't work.
I don't.
Yeah.
Some people are just
I know.
really good manipulators.
Mm-hmm.
People are really good manipulators, and you know, this is a different like cultural environment from ours. And so that kind of spiritual healing and spiritual wellness and connection are held at a much higher value than they are in Western society.
Well, yeah.
And so certain cultures are also a little bit more vulnerable to like a very specific charlatan like this one. You know, it's just like,
well, charlatans
so wild.
con men,
they're gonna lean into whatever
they
susceptibility they have in their environment.
Also, I will say, regardless of what we think, like Western medicine, this works, this doesn't work.
Right.
Like, we're gonna, 20 years from now, we're gonna be mystified about the things that we think worked and didn't work, and
this doesn't work. I'm just gonna.
No, this specifically doesn't
I'm just
work.
saying.
I know.
We're not like
You know what
shitting
I'm
on
saying.
spirituality or like, spiritual healing. That's not my issue.
I'm just
at
saying
all with
spiritual
any of
or
this.
just like 20 years ago, we didn't think that women smoking cigarettes while they were pregnant was an
Was
issue.
a problem. Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're always gonna learn new amazing feats of medicine.
I'm just gonna hold out hope for the bathtub electrocution.
Oh no. That's just a
medicine.
bad idea. So Hoka and her husband sat in two separate chairs,
Fingers
facing
crossed.
each other. Okay, I'm gonna get to some dark stuff now, so let's just tone it down, ladies.
Yeah.
Facing each other and like locking arms, both with their feet in their own basins of water. Lim then applied the wires to the husband's temples, sending a deadly electric shock through him that also passed through Hoka and shocked her unconscious but did not kill her.
This is horrific.
This is
This is like the old people in the Notebook, but being murdered.
But the dark side. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hoka awoke holding her now dead husband, and Lim instructed her to tell the police that he had died in an accident due to faulty wiring, like he was going to plant his body somewhere. And so that's what they did, and the cops didn't look into it any further.
Oh,
Wow.
I don't like that.
No, it's bad. It's very bad.
No, bring him back.
So in the aftermath, no, I can't. He's gone. I'm
He'll
so
come back
sorry.
as something
That's
dark
so
and unnatural.
sad.
Oh, I don't want no.
God willing.
Don't you dare
You know what?
use
You know
practical
what?
magic on us.
All
don't
right.
you do
All
it.
right.
Don't you
I'll
sucker
accept it.
Channing me. Mm-mm.
How
You
dark.
don't you dare.
It already is dark and unnatural.
Natural.
How unnatural.
Right. So, in the aftermath of this event, Hoka would be so mentally disturbed by this, because the trauma, my
The
God.
guilt, too.
Yeah. That she was actually checked into a psychiatric hospital for treatments, and while away from Lim and in the care of psych professionals, she improved significantly and even reconnected with her estranged family. But after leaving the hospital, she moved back in with Lim, and things continued on much the same as they had before.
Oh, no, she relapsed.
Yep. So Lim took his spiritual practices to the next level, possibly emboldened by Lonyak's murder, and that's
The husband.
Hoka's husband, by electrocution. He decided that the next step is to offer blood sacrifices to the gods who used him as a conduit to the spirit world. And I'm not sure how he chose his victims, and we will kind of get to that, and we'll get to the alleged quote unquote reason that he started doing this. It's completely unhinged. But for now, I'll just tell you what
He's
happened.
on a roll now. He's cruising.
Yeah. So he zeroed in on 9-year-old Agnes Eng, who attended a nearby church called Church of the Risen Christ. One Sunday after church, Lim abducted her from the street and brought her back to his home. While there, she was injected with a sedative, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death. The only silver lining here, I'm hoping, is that she was sedated. So I am just praying so fucking hard that she just did not feel anything the entire time. But there's really no way to know. But like,
she was conscious
to sleep at
for
night.
being kidnapped. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, her last experiences were fear. And
9
That's-
years old.
yeah, it's fucking tragic. They then stuffed her body into a leather duffel bag and left it out on the sidewalk away from their home, but like not super far away.
He still got the two ladies.
Yes. And they all, like, they helped with the kidnapping because, like, yeah, like, oh, we're just women. They would be like, oh, can you help me with something over here? And they'd be like, oh, okay, you know. Like, it's just so sad. So they leave her in a duffel bag several blocks away, and she was discovered on January 25th, 1981 by a 25-year-old dude just coming home from the movies. So this gets sicker, though, because as if killing this child wasn't enough, the wives, Tan and Hoka, would call poor Agnes's mother and threaten to abduct and, quote, chop up her other young daughters. She had, like, 9 kids.
So they
would harass her.
Selected her so they knew this kid's identity so that they could then essentially torture the parents.
Possibly for this one. Wow. Yeah. It's nuts. They did not carry out this plan, thank God. And despite threatening phone calls, there was very little evidence to connect Lim and his wives to Agnes's death. And the case remained open with no leads. 2 weeks later, 10-year-old Ghazali Marzuki was found dead, laid in a patch of grass mere blocks from Lim's home. He had been abducted by Hoka from a local playground where he had been playing with his cousins while, like, his grandmother was watching him.
Oh, my God.
And a bunch of the kids. Yeah. Similarly to Agnes, Ghazali was taken back to Lim's home, drugged, strangled, and eventually drowned. 3 burn marks were also discovered on his back. A coroner report later determined that those were post-mortem. And they may have tried to, like, use the shock therapy thing on him, maybe to try to revive him. I don't know, but, like, or just fuck with him. I have no idea why they would do that. There was also a puncture to his arm, which is presumed to be the spot where, like, either blood was taken or sedative was administered by injection, because he had, like, done that before.
I know that, like, there's no logic to this, but, like, there's, like, no motivation other than just, like,
none.
Being fucked up.
Yep. He has, and when you get to his reasoning behind this plan, it's, like, so unhinged that I don't.
So, in his brain, he has, like,
things are not firing properly. Like, I don't know where the fuck he's making these plans and thinking that this is gonna work. I think he gets so bogged down in his own delusion that he starts to believe his own bullshit, and it just goes completely off the rails. So, but unlike the lack of evidence in Agnes's case, this situation had a literal trail leading investigators to the scene of the crime. So the Unholy Trinity had dragged this poor sweet boy around the block to dispose of him, and unbeknownst to them, this left a trail of blood leading all the way back to Lim's front door.
A trail of blood to his door. Oh my God.
Yeah. They hadn't noticed that there was blood dripping from Ghazali's nose.
It's never a nosebleed, except when it is.
I know. Except when it is. And yeah. I believe that, like, I truly believe that Ghazali's heroic spirit, like, left behind these breadcrumbs that weren't, like, a super obvious streak.
Yeah.
Like, they were subtle enough to be missed by the perpetrators.
But obvious enough to be picked up on.
Obvious enough to be looked for by forensics. And this, like, kept other children from suffering the same fate that he and Agnes did. Like, I believe that in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So upon entering Lim's home, investigators felt uneasy. They described the creepy apartment as being lit in dim amber-colored light. It's honestly like kind of Lucy's dream apartment. Dim amber-colored light, and the first thing you see upon entering is a massive altar to multiple gods.
A curious cabinet.
You know what? I love it.
Yep. A lot of tchotchkes.
No
There's
notes.
pictures on the drive. Yeah, no notes. The religious artifacts seem to be all over the place, some connected to Catholicism, some Hindu, some Chinese idols, and many of these religious totems were smeared with blood. Blood was found in his kitchen and on a pair of slippers and some of his clothing in his apartment. Though we didn't have the same forensic capabilities in 1981 that we have now, some rudimentary forensics could pretty closely match hair and blood type from Ghazali to the blood found at the scene.
Wow.
They also found bottles of pills that matched what had been in both Agnes and Ghazali's systems, and syringes with blood still lingering inside.
Wow.
There's also a photo on the drive of really weird items collected from the apartment. Go look at it. It will be on the blog. And I want to draw your attention to unknown item, which looks like a pail of ground beef.
Ah!
Which freaks me the fuck out. Unknown item is the most disturbing thing I have ever seen.
What does it look like? It looks like
a box of ketchup or a bad meatloaf.
Yeah, it does. It looks like bad meatloaf with like a marinara sauce topping.
But he's also got nunchucks, a tiger tooth.
Yep.
Like,
I don't like it.
A pacifier? What? I can't. I'm
literal
particularly curious.
red flag.
A literal red flag, labeled red flag. Strands of hair tied around rubber tube.
Oh my. Yep.
It's very weird. It's very fucking
bundle
weird.
of tag yourself.
Yeah,
bundle
tag
of
yourself.
charms.
I'm unknown object. Hands down. Anyway, all three are arrested on murder charges.
I love how it says items
trail.
not to scale.
Yeah, I know. It's like fucking obviously. There's nunchucks in here next to a tiny pacifier. So, why the fuck did he murder 2 children? Well, one of his victims came forward to testify at trial, and her story is wild. She stated that she almost met the same fate as these children when in October of 1980, she met Lim and his wife Tan while selling beauty products like door to door.
Mary Kay or whatever.
He convinced her that she was haunted by spirits and he could exorcise those spirits in a series of rituals. She declined. He persisted, inviting her to sit down, have a glass of milk. I'll tell you more about it.
That's a red flag as I drink my glass of nog.
Yep. So he had mixed crushed sedative pills into the milk, and she felt those effects soon after drinking it. While she was unconscious, Lim sexually assaulted her. He continued this cycle with her while holding her captive for like 2 weeks.
Oh, no.
God. She eventually got away and went to the police. This is before the murders, reporting Lim for the rape and kidnapping. He was arrested along with his wife Tan for being an accomplice to the assaults. While they were out on bail, Lim had the fucked up idea to distract the police from looking into him for these rapes with a series of child murders. He also believed that the murders would serve as blood sacrifices to the goddess Kali, which would persuade her to intervene and draw the attention of the police away from him and his holy wives.
Yeah, you're right. That is a completely unhinged plan. I want to distract them from my bad crime by committing
a worse crime.
Yeah, even more really awful crimes.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he even went as far as pretending to be possessed by this goddess to convince Tan and Hoka to assist him with this plan. And he actually lured several children to his apartment who survived by various miracles, like one being too skinny, quote, and another because, quote, the gods didn't want her, and another simply because someone had seen her enter his apartment and he didn't want to get caught.
Oh my God.
So this just adds like a whole new level of terror to this story. He's randomly selecting children specifically. And like the randomness is scary enough. And then the completely arbitrary rules around who's going to be sacrificed and who isn't.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's so scary.
Imagine being one of the kids that like
got away.
Went there, but then, yeah.
The survivor's guilt. I mean, there are a lot of horrible things connected to this crime. So all 3 were evaluated by psychiatric professionals and deemed competent to stand trial, and also deemed like competent at the time that the crimes were committed. Their defense continued to push, quote, mental disturbance, But the prosecution countered that by focusing on the calculating manner in which the children were abducted and killed, and how unlikely it was for 3 different people to share the same mental disturbance that could lead to a shared delusion of this magnitude.
Yeah.
So like, even if Hoka and Tan were, because they were trafficked, they were manipulated, they were broken down, they were basically brainwashed. And I do believe that. He knew what the fuck he was doing. And so I don't necessarily think the women's sentences were fair. I think that they would have been better served just like being in prison or some kind of institution for the remainder of their days. But all 3 of them were sentenced to death. They were found guilty. Like a huge crowd of people gathered to hear the verdict. It's May 25th, 1983. There's pictures on the drive of like the masses of people. And all 3 were found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. So, quote, on the 25th of November, 1988, the trio were given their last meals and led to the hangman's noose. Lim smiled throughout his last walk. After the sentences were carried out, the 3 murderers were given a short Catholic funeral mass by Father Doro and cremated on the same day.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
And
that is my case. Yeah. We both went for it.
That is an unholy trinity.
Don't love it.
Absolutely nailed the topic.
Thank you so much. I understood the assignment.
Did.
Wow.
Unknown item.
Wow. Well, thank you so much to listener Satan's mom.
Satan's butthole
has got it going on.
For this topic suggestion. And
Fuck
thank you,
Satan's mom.
Yeah.
And thank all of you for listening to us for 300 plus fucking episodes.
And thank you for submitting your ideas, because
we loved them.
We got a lot.
We got if you submitted ideas on Patreon, we will probably use your idea at another point in time as a gal's pick.
They've been lagged.
They've been lagged, and now I'm gonna go slag on some more nag. And thank you all.
Thank you so much for 300 episodes.
I'm so
excited.
And happy
Cheers,
holidays.
we love you so much. We'll see you
New
next
Year.
week.
Yeah. We're gonna see you.
Bye-bye.
We won't see you next week.
After the new
We're
year.
gonna see you in 2023.
I think I said see you next year. Bye.
You said week,
See you
but your
next
works love you.
Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I sure hope you liked that clip. If you did like that clip, make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube channel, leaving us a nice review, and joining us on Patreon for even more video content, audio content, salacious content all around. Come join us. Treat yourself.